is up, guys? It's Cheko here, and today I have a very exciting reverse 1999 voice actor interview because this is a character I really fought to get. But today I have Indy Saluja, who is the voice of Shamane in reverse 1999.
Hi.
Yes, so
Glad to be
Shamane.
here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, perfect. No, I'm so excited to have you. You were one of the people that I was had on my list for so long
Oh,
because
nice.
Shamane and 1.3 is definitely one of my favorite patches in the entire game. I rave about it all the time. So
Awesome.
I'm just really excited to finally have this opportunity to talk to you and just talk about and learn all the background stuff and all that insight on how it went to be Shamane and to be the character. And then
Absolutely.
also,
Yeah.
I did want to add that Charmaine was nominated for a Gaming on Phone Award for Best Voice Acting in Mobile Game in November of last year. So I
Yeah.
did want to shout that out. You did an amazing job, so it was absolutely deserved,
Thank
100%.
you so much. Yeah, that was a bit of a surprise when I saw that. In fact, someone had sent that to me, and I'm like, oh,
Oh,
and yeah, there's a little video clip showing, all the different nominees and stuff. So it was nice to be part of that group. So for that particular category, it was nice to see this game represented. So yeah, it was great.
right. Like I love like reverse 1999 representation and then reverse 1999 voice actor representation is even
Yeah,
better
I
because the
know,
community
amazing.
loves it. All right.
Yeah, thanks for reaching out. I mean, it's this is great. I don't know
Mhm.
if you know, but I did a Reddit live kind of thing too a few years ago, where some people asked me some questions as well. So then I didn't hear about much, after that. But then hearing from you and hearing just the excitement from you about the character was very nice to get, I have to say. So yeah, thanks for having me.
I thank you for doing this because everyone is so
Yeah.
excited because I kind of did a little announcement on Twitter. I was like, guys, if you have any questions for
Yeah.
the video of
Oh, awesome.
Shemaine, and then I got a
Yeah.
couple DMs like, you got it. I was like, yeah. So yeah, this is very exciting.
Yeah.
But without further ado, let's get into our first question. So the first question is, how did you first get involved with voicing Charmaine, as well as walk us through the audition process and what made you excited to take on this role?
Yeah, so this goes back actually back to 2022 when I first got the audition. So you get a breakdown which describes the character, and you get some of the materials that they want you to submit. It was called actually Project Detective is what the code name, I guess, or whatever it was, because as you know, a lot of times they don't use the real name for the game. So that's all I knew. I didn't know what Project Detective was. I did know that it was for an English version of this game. I didn't even know what type of game it really was. I mean, they just gave me the lines. They said it's going to be an English version. Then they also asked me if I'm okay doing some Hindi lines. So, because they said, we could switch it to Punjabi. I'm Punjabi, but they said it doesn't really fit with the other characters. So that was the other question they asked before I auditioned. And that's all I had. I didn't really have much else. And I submitted an audition, and it actually took about a month before I even heard back. And then they kind of said, "Look, we actually want to offer you the role." Then I started seeing some sketches of the character, and really started putting things together to actually do this. It was very interesting because I guess they have the game developers are in China, as you know, but they also had some team members in LA. So the other caveat that they had for hiring me was I have to be able to be willing to tape at 8 p.m. at night until maybe 2 a.m. in the morning because of the time difference. So it's very unusual, I think, in the voice acting world to have those kind of hours, but they kind of wanted to make sure I was okay with that too. So yeah, I mean, at the beginning, this happens with, I kind of do, film and television and commercials as well. And that's very common where you may not know a lot about the actual project itself when you first get started, and you have to kind of make the character your own. But that obviously evolves with the process. So yeah, this actually goes back, I guess, 3 years now. So
Yeah, because again, 1.3 was like one of the first patches in the game. So I'm not surprised
yeah,
that they They started working on it like all the way back in 2022 and before the game released globally in 2023. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and recording did go into 2023
Oh
for sure because
wow.
there was multiple sessions, of course, and they keep calling you back. But yeah, that's when everything started.
Oh wow. See, it's always interesting. I like how you mentioned that it was the code name for the
Yeah.
project, which this is my first time hearing like an actual code name. So that's actually really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And I'm trying to decipher like how that the code name like goes into the story, but that's actually very interesting.
Yeah, because you have to kind of think, what does the title mean to me? And, so.
Exactly. And then also, how you mentioned the 8 a.m. Recording sessions. I didn't know that they ask if you guys are okay with that first, which is actually
Yeah,
another interesting
like I don't
twist.
know if because I think because mostly if you get like offers to tape usually just during the day, but this
Hmm.
because this was like 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. on some nights, like you're in a studio, I was in a studio in Toronto. We used different studios, but yeah, I think some people just couldn't necessarily do that.
Yeah.
'Cause it has to be live because they want everyone's listening at the same time in multiple countries, and you
Hmm.
have like a story writer. The writers were actually in the room as well
Ooh.
because they had to also help provide direction. So um, yeah, that's just the way the voice had to be taped.
Yeah. And like even at 8 a.m., you did not 8 a.m., but 2 a.m. You did an amazing
Yeah,
job. Like no one can
yeah,
even tell.
thanks. Some of my best work was at 2 a.m., I gotta say.
And you know what? That makes for some amazing lore, but such
Yeah,
an interesting story. So
yeah.
let's get into the second question, which is, what were your initial thoughts on Charmaine when you first read the character description? How did your understanding of him evolve as you began performing the role?
So yeah, the character description was interesting. It's they kind of described a man who's unrestrained by rules and conventions. Sometimes not so reliable, but sometimes very reliable and a protector in a lot of ways. Obviously, the prosthetic arm was a big part of the physicality for his character, which does kind of contribute to how you interpret the role. But of course, his past trauma, was a huge part of who he is. Having losing almost his entire family to a fire, and then reinventing himself in the Himalayas, and then kind of becoming more one with nature and drawing on those on the strengths of nature. And these his character is an arcanist, so he does kind of draw on those spiritual powers as well. And that was a very interesting evolution to kind of read about. And of course, it's part of the story. I mean, he's a Sharma, part of this family, but the trauma he goes through really made him who he was. And uh, when I read that, I'm like, this is a very interesting character kind of to dive into. Trying to imagine something so horrific and how he actually rose above that and became a protector for others, and what he learned from that. Such a horrific thing. Many people would not necessarily rise up in the same way as Shemaine did. I just thought it was a great character to portray. He has kindness in him to wear that arm to so he doesn't scare kids. It showed his kindness. He's kind of goofy, but also serious. Another thought I had when I read about it was like, this is me. I am. I do identify with a lot of the traits, and I think that's what a lot of actors feel is they bring a lot of themselves, of course, to these characters. And Shemaine diffuses stress with jokes, and I do that all the time. So I thought the story was very interesting, and I also thought, oh, I think I can actually do this. So yeah, it was just and that evolved as I got more script, and I saw how he interacted with other characters.
Wow. So I really liked how you went very like descriptive about his past because obviously when people are playing 1.3, not everyone probably played like the character side stories, especially since the game was a little still new at the time.
Yeah.
But like him in the current like main well, the event patch, the main event patch, it's like all that kind of stuff happened before and built up to the character that he was as you were voice acting it at the time,
Yeah.
which means like you really have to keep all that stuff in mind on how he would say this certain line and how he would convey how he feels in this certain like reaction to something. And then even
Yeah.
still, even in that patch, he still dealt with a lot of trauma even then with his meeting his long lost sister again and having
Yeah.
to go
Kumar
through
was
all that.
that was a whole other
Yeah.
relationship that was like, wow, this is heavy. I voiced the young Shemaine as well.
Ooh.
So you had to kind of understand, of course, the background that led up to this character. His father was a different voice actor in one of the main trailers that came out. That was someone else's voice, but I also did the young Shemaine as well. So yeah, I mean, understanding the background, of course, of where this character comes from. It's not necessarily talked about within the story arc itself. It's obviously referenced, but very important for me to understand for sure.
And I also did want to ask this. So, what was the order that you did the line? So, did you do his character story after or before the most of the main story events?
It was a lot of it was out of order, to be honest. And
Okay.
this is how, yeah.
Yeah. That
Plus,
makes
doing
sense.
the trailer was a separate session where I learned about stuff in that as well. So it's very interesting how these things. I mean, film and television is also typically taped like this too, where it's out of order. So you have to kind of get into that emotional feel in that moment, which could be a completely different thing than you're doing the next day. So at one point, I think I did ask for kind of a more full script, just so I can kind of put it together a little bit better, and including other people's lines, because some of the initial sessions, it was just my lines. I didn't necessarily know who I was talking to and that sort of thing. Now, of course, I had like amazing people in the studio with me,
Hmm.
but then also hearing in my headphones from China, what the writer's telling me, like, this is who you're speaking to, this is the emotion you're feeling at this moment, this happened just before, so this is what we want from you. That was how we figured out how to say each line. So going in order, I mean, you can't do the whole thing in one day anyway. You have to kind of get back into it regardless. But yeah, it was out of order, and sometimes they'd have to create a new scene to fill in something else that happened in the story. You get called in for extra sessions, like, hey, we need something here now. So that the story, that also evolved as well. We sometimes changed lines on the fly, to make it sound better. So yeah, and they were very particular for sure. There couldn't be any swear words at all, even remotely, even close to that for this game. So
Mm.
um, we also had to be very careful with. So that's why I didn't really ad lib anything really. We sometimes created new lines on the spot, but I couldn't really go off script and just do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
It was very, like, they're very particular for a reason. Obviously, they're trying to tell a story here that I don't necessarily know all the other parts of. So,
Hmm.
because I wasn't in the studio with other voice actors either. It was
Hmm.
it was basically me and my voice director, and the producers obviously nearby, and along with the technician in the studio. So
Wow, it's always interesting to hear. I do know how you guys are always like not with the other voice actors. So that's
yeah,
always something that I have to think about when I'm like playing the game. I'm like, wait, these people are like in a room
yeah,
just like not speaking to like the other character. They're kind of just like doing it without any of that like kind of support. But as you were like getting to do more of the lines and getting more of the script, were you in your head kind of piecing together like how the storyline went? Like I know you got it out of order, but I'm just wondering like what was kind of going through your head as you like heard more of what was happening. We're like kind of reading the script and being like, oh wait, so this happened this time and then that. What was that
yeah. That
like?
was, yeah, exactly, like referring to the past and how he felt about his sister, and then for sure the moments when he was talking about his father were particularly emotional for me to read, and just learning more about those relationships was really important. And then just, yeah, just kind of past references to where he fit with his family heritage and how he initially potentially rejected it and maybe wasn't respected by his elders and this sort of thing. I think when I started reading those lines, I'm like, oh yeah, I mean, obviously that's going to influence who he is today and how he maybe needs to sometimes feel like he has to prove himself. So yeah, definitely it was very interesting to me, even just getting the scripts ahead of the time, going, oh wow, that's so cool. Oh, I didn't know this. Okay, so I got to get into this headspace now in this moment in his life, and why did that past experience influence this moment? I mean, that's what we're doing all the time as actors, right? So,
Mhm.
so yeah, I definitely felt that as I got more script.
Oh wow. See, I that's so interesting to me. Maybe one day I'll get into voice acting, but that was so cool.
Totally, you should.
Everyone should. It's so
Yeah, no, I
cool.
know. It's a really fun industry for sure, and if obviously having a good voice, you need to have more than that, of course, because any voice I think would be a very unique take on any character that you want to take on. But do a bit of training, maybe tape a demo, and yeah, go for it. I mean, it's like anything else. It's challenging to break into the industry for sure. Even for established people, just finding work is a continual process. But yeah, I encourage anyone who likes this kind of thing for sure to try it out.
You know what? You guys hear that? 2026 is going to be our voice acting era. All right, let's get into the next question, which is what similarities do you have with Charmaine? And can you relate to parts of his story, which you kind of talked about before a little bit? So I'm very interested to hear
Yeah,
more.
I think I mentioned a few things. I mean, the back and forth between his silliness, because he does have a connection with his inner child, which is I'm like that too. But then also alternating with seriousness when he had to be. I'm also an ER doctor by profession, so I have to have very serious moments in life, of course. Sometimes you do have to break the tension, and that's a bit of an art in and of itself. So I very much live that every day, and that's just who I was. That's who I've always been growing up within my family. I mean, we use a sense of humor to break tension all the time. At least I did. Sometimes it lands, sometimes it doesn't, right? But it's a coping mechanism
Hmm.
for some people, but it also sometimes relaxes people around you, and you have to read the room a little bit and see, how people are receiving that. And it's a bit of a skill, and I think Shemaine does that. Sometimes it's kind of funny. Carol would say to me, "Hey, don't forget your personality. Don't forget you're so goofy, Shemaine." When I would say a line or something, right? Like, "Oh yeah, 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 I'm Shemaine. I'm Shemaine." It's like he's like, "We love Indy, but you got to still be Shemaine," which is encompassing all these other things, right? So I bring myself to it where you do connect with your inner, alternating between joking and seriousness, but I do see that in myself in everyday life, and also the rebelling against the family, not listen to your father initially, and he does admit to that in the story.
I grew more and more rebellious against the family rules, giving up the training, refusing to listen to my father, skipping all the practice I could possibly avoid. I didn't want to be the blockhead hedged by the so-called family heritage.
You go through these different stages in life where my dad's a hero, and then you get into a teenager years like, oh, maybe my parents don't know that much, and then it goes back up to like he's actually knew everything. It's like you go through this process growing up, and I think that's a very normal process that Shemaine went through as well. He initially didn't see where he fit in with his family's heritage, but it looks like he eventually kind of came around and always recognized the importance of family and his love for his family. So I did certainly share a lot of those things with Shemaine.
Nice. One thing how you mentioned how he's like this really goofy guy, and it kind of just like made me think about, oh, you wouldn't see Charmaine and think he came from like this
Yeah,
super strict household where even because his younger sister Kumar, she was she wasn't a human, she was an arcanist, but she didn't have strong arcanist abilities that
right.
even they ended up pushing her out. Like you wouldn't know that like that's the kind of family he grew up with because
Yeah.
of just how happy like he was like just like the vibe of the room.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
even during that one moment where he had to punch the wall door thing to kind
Yeah.
of get through. Like that scene where he was kind of like building that sort of like self-confidence and his little banter with like Konjira, like all of
Yes.
that is just like
Yes.
you
And he didn't
wouldn't
feel worthy initially. He's like, wait a minute. Oh, I
exactly.
could do it, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, it's that was all great stuff. I'm glad you remember all these little pieces of the game because it really does. They were so careful in terms of making sure that every line mattered, right? Like it
Hmm.
all connected to who he was. And yeah, such an important moment. It was fun kind of doing the grunting and
Yeah.
all that part was also kind of cool, but like cathartic as well, right?
Hmm.
For him in that moment. So yeah, no, I totally agree. Those are interesting moments you bring up.
Yeah, and it's like also how you were saying like he's kind of like the older brother. He was
Yeah.
like he actually is an older brother, which is like actually kind
Yep.
of funny. Like I feel like he has kind of like traits of like a younger sibling and an older sibling, like where he's
Yeah.
goofy, but then like when it's time to lock in, he locks in.
He
And
locks in.
then
Yeah.
exactly. And then there's
I'm the
moments
oldest
like
sibling of my
Mhm.
of the three of us, and
Oh.
we grew up in a pretty strict household as well, with
Hmm.
lots of rules, and so yeah, you just have to kind of figure your way into that. There's a lot of, my parents were born in India. I was born in India, and they came over here in '72, and they carried a lot of those traditions, and the way you raised the family was a very specific way of doing things.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, we kind of cope with things the best way we knew how, and I would lock into that older brother mode, but yeah, I'd sometimes act like the youngest in the family too, and
Yeah.
it just depends on the situation. So,
Right. It's always good to have that balance because you
yeah,
can't always be like super serious like all the time. I feel like that's really
yeah,
draining.
yeah.
So
No, exactly.
sometimes you need like that other more humorous side. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You guys have a lot in common. See, and that's why they always pick the most amazing person to play these characters. So
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I feel like they were saying that too. They're like, we just feel like you were just Shemaine.
hmm.
And they got that sense too, because they can switch actors too, right? After they start taping, that happens.
Hmm. Oh.
But after the first session, they're like, yeah, this is we feel this is the right kind of vibe for us. So yeah, I think they kind of felt that too. So that was nice.
Yeah, and they did an amazing job, and so did you. It was the
Oh,
absolute perfect casting.
thanks. Thank you.
All right. So for the next question is, what do you think of Beneath the Jungle Canopy Garment? So Charmaine's super awesome skin that everyone went crazy about, especially on Twitter.
Yeah, no, I know. And it's funny, there was a lot of TikToks too. Like, I'm not on TikTok, but it's a lot of little things that people were sending from TikTok. I'm like, wow, he is huge on there. It's, but yeah, I thought that was an interesting garment. It's so funny because people make fun of me because I did this photo shoot a while back, and I do have an open shirt, almost shirtless of myself on IMDb, where it's like, oh, that's kind of the same kind of look. Um, he's obviously a drawing, and people always comment on how much they love what he looks like in the drawing. So let's make sure we're talking about that. But yes, sure, I love the outfit. I think a lot of people actually were fans of the that particular one. It's so funny when you read some of the comments when they look at Shemaine. I mean, the anime art though is incredible in it. Like
Right. It's so
it's
detailed.
so detailed and so rich, and but yeah, it was so funny because I was talking to my producer, and wow, there's a bit of a following for Shemaine.
Oh no,
we
he's
didn't even know
popular.
we didn't even know existed. 'Cause people would send me even art. They would draw Shemaine and send it to me.
Oh wow.
So yeah, it was kind of cool.
Yes, I definitely bought that skin. I definitely
Yeah,
spent
I
the
was gonna say,
money.
what did you think of it? I was gonna
Yeah,
ask
no,
you.
I got it. I definitely got it. I did all that
Okay.
work pulling shaman. I was
Well, that
definitely
makes
about to
sense. The
get that
question was
skin.
in here then. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, no, even like before, like when it first came out in
Yeah.
CN, I was like, oh. They have my money for sure.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I'd pay for that. Like he's definitely one of
Yeah,
my
I looked at
favorite
that going,
characters.
wow, that's yeah, that's a spicy one. Uh,
All right. So, next question is, was there a particular scene or line that was especially powerful or memorable for you to record?
I think the stuff about his sister. There's so many lines with his sister and
Mm-hmm.
reminiscing about Kumar. Like I mentioned before, even about his father and how he just kind of alluded to the fact that he didn't fit in and he didn't listen initially, but maybe he was right about some things. That was very touching for me. Um, as kind of one of the goofier ones, though, like I love in the one trailer where he's like, "Woohoo! The hunt begins!" Like that one trailer
Yes.
when he's on the cliff and he's jumping up and down. I'm like, "Oh, that was a funny use of that line. I didn't know where that was going to go." but
His all.
but I don't know. For some reason, it's so funny. It was also very memorable though. Taping that line because I'm like, I don't where are they using this? And then I saw the trailer come. I'm like, oh, nice, nice.
Yeah, that's his ultimate actually. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
every time it's just woohoo, that begins. He's dancing and then
And
jumps
he's just
off.
dancing around, being a goof, and I'm like, oh, that's very memorable. And the fact that they use it in his own specific trailer. So yeah, but yeah, so
Yeah.
many great ones. I mean, even the Hindi lines. I obviously when you're trying to do a different language,
Hmm.
you also obviously have to know the English translation, but also bring the right emotion. To the words you're saying in a different language, which is not always easy to do.
Hmm.
So we did multiple different things to make sure we try to get that right. I mean, they had one other voice actor tape it in Hindi so that we'd replay it in the studio.
Mm.
And obviously with her, it was a very specific, dialect. There's so many different ones. So some people may feel like, oh, that doesn't sound like where I'm from, but depends on the dialect we're using. I also use my parents a lot to make sure that the emotion was landing on the right words. You know what I mean? Like you have to know
Hmm.
because it can sound very different, of course, when you're saying something in a different language. So that was also very memorable to do those lines, and we were just making sure we tried to get it right, not just necessarily the pronunciation of it, but more the emotion behind it. Like the rhythm has to be
Mm-hmm.
right and the emotion has to land. It has to sound authentic, of course.
Hmm.
So that was also memorable to try and do those lines. We dedicated a lot of time to doing those, and there ended up being a lot more Hindi lines than we had initially talked about doing. So they just, I think they like the sound of it or something. They're like, "Oh, we're doing a bunch more." I'm like, "Okay, fine." It was definitely yeah.
Yeah.
But I found that memorable too. Yeah, it was fun to do it.
Yeah, I can only imagine because, sometimes when you translate something, or like sometimes you see circumstances where something is translated, but like
Yeah,
in English, it means something like really different from how it meant in the original language. So yeah,
yeah,
you mentioning that actually makes like so much sense. And I can only imagine like how complicated that was, like trying to
yeah,
find the exact like translation and then also trying to convey the emotion for
yeah,
how both of them like in a similar way. Like it's just it
yeah.
definitely does sound like a lot.
It was a lot. I mean, obviously, I'm familiar with the sounds, and I speak some Punjabi and stuff like that. So I
Hmm.
know, and my parents are fluent in Hindi. So I'd play it back for them and be like, this sounds like it lands to me. What do you think? And try and get their feeling on this. So obviously, it's our specific interpretation
Hmm.
that we use for it, which is all I can bring to it. Um, but yeah, it was definitely an extra layer there to make sure we try to get it right.
Hmm. And then I just recently, this is going back off of one of the first thing you said. I just recently was like looking into Kumar and like her story and
Yeah.
everything. And then I remembered because you were talking about how a lot of those were memorable because of how emotional they were. For
Hmm.
one of those scenes where he was like, "Yeah, so I was letting this woman just borrow a room," and it was later where he found out that's his sister that his parents
Yeah,
kicked out.
I know.
And it was like after that, he was like, "That's when I started to rebel and
Yeah,
like go against my parent and that kind of stuff." And then there's also the scene at the end of the patch where Kumar unfortunately does take her own life.
I'm still here, Kumar. How about we go back first?
There's no place I can go back to.
Mr. Sharma, Kumar says she'll come with us. She just needs to take some papers. It won't take long.
I hope when the universe constructs me for a second time, I will not come to this world again.
That part was also like really emotional because there was like two different sides of it. There was Shamane who like knew her longer than Kalabona because that's
Yeah.
literally his sister. And Kalabona was so distraught, but
Yeah.
Shamane just knew like he had to like in a way set his sister free because of how much pain she was in. And then
Right.
him trying to hold Kalabona back and keep her. And then also like I can only imagine how the recording process of that scene was because of how just emotional it was. Because I don't think anyone who was playing it like expected that
No,
to
I know.
happen at
The
all.
big reveal, right? It was just like,
Right.
whoa. And Kumar, yeah, for that voice, such a great job, with that one as well. It was just, I think the emotions did land, and you could feel, even though we didn't tape it together, you could feel the relationship, which is kudos to her as well for doing such a great job with that character and understanding what was involved there and what that must have been like to be kicked out of your family, and how that affected Shemaine, of course. And this is, he's not going to understand that. Why would you do that to her own family member? And you can understand why he'd rebel against those kinds of values or whatever.
Yeah.
It is obviously a more complex, situation that led to that. But and then the ultimate tragedy in the end is like, oh, heartbreaking.
Yeah. That shocked me for sure. I was like,
Yeah.
I didn't expect it to
I don't think
take
people.
a
I don't think
turn at
anybody saw
all.
it coming. Honestly, like
Mm-mm.
it was going to be more about being reunited and like, oh, it's going to be
Yeah.
amazing, and then the tragedy, of course. But yeah, that definitely hit us too.
Yeah, because like you were saying, like everyone probably just expected like, oh, Kumar no longer has to be with management dictate and all that stuff, and then she gets to be with her brother
Yeah,
finally
yeah,
after all
finally,
this.
yes.
And then
Yeah. You're
that didn't
cheering that on, right? You're
happen.
cheering on that part of the story. It's
Hmm.
like you want to see that happen. So yeah, no, that was definitely pretty heavy stuff there.
Yeah.
Colabona, that's we had some good scenes. There were some good scenes between them too. Just
Hmm.
her kind of joking around, when she's trying to break the rock, and it's
Yeah.
and he's like, "What are you gonna make with that?" It's lots of fans of Colabona. I know that.
Hmm.
It's but yeah, but there were some great character moments there.
All right. Now, let's get into our next question, which is, have you ever read a line in the booth and thought, what did I just say?
I think I think that happened a lot during a lot of the physical moments.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I had to shout out lines. Sometimes Carol would say to me, "Okay, imagine now they're across the street from a studio. That's how far they are." And then I'd have to scream out some line while doing some physical activity, breaking a rock or a statue or something. And it was so physical, like when you're doing voice acting, you're not just sitting there like this. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're doing all the expressions, you are being very physical in the booth, and you're even sometimes just really acting out what they're doing because it's you have to be authentic. And when I was doing all that, and you do it over and over, you're kind of getting to the physicality of it and the emotion of it. Sometimes afterwards, I'm like, what did I even say there?
Right.
It's like, because it was so, especially it's so funny. This happens in acting a lot where if you're really in a scene and you are really present, after the scene is over, you almost forgot what happened,
Mm.
and what you actually said. And that's actually a good thing because then you're like, oh, wow, I actually probably was really present, really felt the emotion. And then afterwards, you kind of let it all go and you're like, oh my God, what just happened? It's
Mm-hmm.
all a bit of a blur that's mixed in with your own personal thoughts that kind of layered into what you said and backed up what you said. It all kind of comes into one together, and you're like, you can't remember exactly what the words were. But that happened especially during some of the physical stuff that happened, or if there was something emotionally painful. I found that sometimes afterwards you just kind of forget what the exact words were.
Yeah. And I mean, I definitely like understand that because there's times where I'm like even like reacting to Reverse 1999 and then like once I'm done, I'm like, "Wait, what
Yeah.
did I even say? How did I react? Like what happened?" And then I'm looking back at it, I'm like, "I said that?" Like it's things like that where it's just like, yeah. But I can see how that could be like especially a lot of the physical lines, how you could be like, "Oh, what just happened?" Like coming back into like reality after the
Yeah.
fact and stuff like that. But I did also want to ask, is there things that you always bring with you into the booth when you were recording?
So funny thing, I tried to wear the same clothes every time. I would wash it, but I try and wear the same kind of shoes, the same kind of feeling, depending like just to create that same just to remind myself of who the personality was. But I wouldn't necessarily bring any props or anything like that in there because I would just try and more imagine that if I needed to in terms of holding a prop, because you can also make extra noise and stuff, which you don't want to do. So yeah, I didn't necessarily bring anything beyond that, but just try to dress similarly, because even the pair of shoes you wear can change your feeling. Like it's interesting how that happens. But and then just your water and the usual stuff that you bring into the booth. But I wouldn't say there was a specific prop. More, I'd bring in a similar feeling as I prep myself before going into the booth. Is all I kind of do.
The clothes thing is very interesting. And
Yeah,
like now that you say it, I'm like, oh yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
yeah,
Because it's like you're trying to be consistent with this character for like so many months.
yeah.
You know,
Because it
you
takes
kind
place
of
over a long period of time,
mm-hmm.
and you almost kind of go into this. Oh yeah, I remember this feeling. You try and keep a lot of the things the same, I guess. That's just my tradition. People don't do that necessarily, and I think you should break that up a little bit depending on if the scene is completely different,
Mm-hmm.
or if you have to kind of shake things up a little bit. If because you don't want to become one noted either throughout it. But I felt like becoming the character was about my clothing and what I wore into the room. So
Huh, that's actually really interesting. You know what?
yeah,
Maybe I'll apply that to certain areas of my life.
yeah,
I'm like, actually, because it's like I can see how even just wearing like different shoes, you're like, wait, like I feel at least like a little bit different. So it's like,
yeah.
it's like having those
It changes how you feel actually. Like, oh,
exactly.
this is or a good interview happen. This is my lucky interview shirt now. It's like people do that kind of stuff all the time, right? It's
You know what? I'm gonna start doing that for
good
the
vibes
interview.
with this sweater or whatever.
Right.
It
All
worked for
right.
me.
Oh,
So
it did. And you know
yeah,
what? I could tell because I couldn't even tell it took like how long did you say the recording process
it was
was?
over several months.
Yeah.
It was yeah, like we started in the fall of or like to 2022, and then we continued on into 2023 after the break, and so yeah, it's you'd have like these big gaps sometimes
Mm-hmm.
between recording, sometimes a couple of months.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, you had to kind of remind yourself of it. And sometimes what I also do is just this is nothing I had to bring into the booth itself, but
Mm-hmm.
they would play back for me my some of my last session,
Oh.
and then you'd be like, okay, that's the tone I had. Okay, this is the same part of the story. Yeah, okay. You think you warm up a little bit and kind of just practice those exact lines from before, and then go into the new lines. We kind of did that too a little bit.
Oh, that makes sense. I didn't even know about the big gaps in between. That's actually
Yeah.
wow.
Think of some of these big video games, right? That happen like and sometimes they take 3 or 4 years to make one.
Oh.
Now the amazing part of that is it's first of all regular work for the actor, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also like you really dive into your character, man. Like there's very few opportunities like that except in video games. Of course,
Mm-hmm.
if you get a regular series TV show or something, you get that opportunity as well. But these kinds of things are rare to get. That's why I'm hoping Shamane comes back at some
Please,
point. But
please.
we got to start a campaign for that. I don't know what their
Right.
plans are, but love to see him back. Yeah, it's some of these games take years to make,
Mhm.
and some of these big actors get to just really dive into the character over those seasons, or sorry, over those years, and keep practicing, and you learn, and they're learning more about the character, and they almost become that character after that
Mhm.
long. It's like you carry that with you for a long time, right? So
Yeah. All
yeah.
right. Let's get into the next question, which is, were there any scenes that challenged you more than others, emotionally, technically, or just due to the tone?
A lot of the challenges were sometimes these projected scenes that I kind of mentioned, like
Hmm.
especially if I had to scream or growl, because they really wanted to protect my voice as well. Because the session's going
Hmm.
to run pretty short if I start losing my voice.
Yeah.
So they're very protective of me. And I think most voice actors do understand, especially if they're experienced, how to protect their voice. But they were very careful with that, and I really appreciated that because they're like, okay, listen, this is the next scene now. We need you to give it everything you have,
Hmm.
but we obviously only want to do it 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
you know, so the right emotion has to be there. If it's a Hindi line, the pronunciation has to be so. All these factors have to come together, and then you just had to gear up, and then just hope you land it. So I found that particularly challenging because you are really trying to project your voice, and sometimes you can feel the strain, and then you got to do it again and again, at least 2 or 3 more times. I found those scenes a lot of fun, but also challenging because there is that extra element of pressure there to get it. So you're not all of a sudden not able to tape tomorrow night. Oh, I can't tape tomorrow because
Hmm.
I overdid it last night. Because that's also on me too, right? Like I have to
Hmm.
understand what my limits are and be able to tell them, like, listen, I feel the strain right now. But they were good with that, and most experienced voice actors know how to know what their limits are. There's also little tricks, they'll before I come in, they're like, make sure you don't have any dairy. This is, I don't
Oh,
know how much of this
yeah.
is a myth, but there's some scientific evidence saying that it probably doesn't change things too much. But there are people out there who say 100% when I drink dairy, I get more phlegm or I get thicker, secretions or something, and then you can get
Hmm.
acid reflux, and that can coat your vocal cords. It can change things for you. So people do kind of stand by that, and I respect that because they know what they feel. But hydration, all these things, you have to kind of keep in mind, which you may not necessarily, it sounds like common sense, but you may not think about that, before going in all the time, because you don't know how long the session's going to be and what
Hmm.
you may not know exactly how things are going to go and how much you need to repeat things. Maybe a session will go a lot longer than you think. So yeah, you just have to be. I found that just challenging to balance that a little bit,
Hmm.
especially because it was also late at night. You're getting
Yeah.
tired. And you're like, oh, we just want to make sure we get it done and make sure we get the 50 or 60 lines we wanted to get done tonight. So there is that part of things where you may get stuck on one line for a while,
Hmm.
until everyone on all ends are satisfied. Yes, that is what we want. And sometimes you tape different versions of each line too, because they haven't decided. He's also, well, we're not sure how we actually want you to say this line. So let's do 2 or 3 different versions of this line.
Hmm.
And that can also be challenging in the moment, to first say it one way and then say it a completely different way,
Hmm.
with the right emotion. So
Yeah.
yeah, those are some of the challenges I found in the booth.
I also did want to ask, were there moments where you said a line, like you said it a couple times, and then you're like, "Oh yeah, this is that was a good one," or "This was the one."
Oh
This is
yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. In fact, we'd all sometimes do it together. That was very rewarding when that happened. Because sometimes we'd tape a line, and I'd be thinking in my head, "Wow, that sounded really good," and then they'd cut it. So, and then everyone would be like, "Yay!" And people, the writer in China and the director from China would be like, "Oh, that was so amazing." those were nice moments whenever that happened. Not that it always happened, but like sometimes we'd all be like, yeah, that was exactly what we needed, and then we'd move on. So that always felt very good. But yeah, definitely you'd feel that in certain moments, like, yeah, that landed, that felt authentic, that felt like Shamane, that felt like I was, you know what I mean? That
Yeah.
felt like a brother sister relationship, given their
Hmm.
history. You did feel that sometimes for sure.
Yeah, like I can only imagine how it was. You're like, everyone's just like,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
you
Everyone's like,
ate
"Oh, yeah, that was it. That was
that.
it."
And they said, on to the
That
next
always
line.
that always felt good. You don't always get that feedback,
Hmm.
especially because you're trying to keep going, right? Because everyone needs to move on,
Hmm.
but I think the excitement, it's just, I think the team also was so amazing.
Hmm.
They just couldn't hold, they just wanted to show their excitement, and it's encouraging for someone, right? Like a lot of times you don't get that in this industry.
Hmm.
So that was nice to get once in a while.
And then another thing you said, the milk thing, I actually heard that
Yeah.
before. So I'm like, wait, it might
Yeah,
actually.
that's the thing. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They'd send me instructions, like, especially before the first time we met, because they didn't necessarily know, they hadn't worked with me before. And they're like, just make sure you do that. Look, we'll have, fruit here and snacks, and, obviously make sure you're hydrated. And they say, please, no dairy products. They just kind of gave me that advice, just to make sure that we didn't run into any problems. So that was, even when you do this multiple times, it's just nice to get those reminders.
All right. Next question is, did any feedback or direction from the voice director shift how you approach Charmaine's voice or performance?
All the time. I mean, I think I mentioned before that sometimes Carol would say to me, "Hey, remember you're Shemaine. Don't forget his personality." He said that. But like I mentioned also, like the writers in China also were like, they had probably some of the best perspectives on what was happening in that moment when we didn't even necessarily have that in the studio. So they would say, well, this is what's happening in this moment, and it would be translated, and then they'd tell me, this is actually what we want you to feel. So it was mostly about redirection in terms of what happened just before and how I should actually say the line. So that happened all the time, because we didn't always have that information in Canada when we were taping. And then even Carol would be like, okay, let me get some clarification on this line before we do it. And he would kind of talk to them offline, and then he'd come back to me and say, okay, this is what they want. Let's try this. And then if it didn't quite land, he'd be like, okay. And he was very good about this. Like, let's imagine this scenario. Imagine that in your head. Take this specific word. I want you to bring down the volume on this word. This other word, I want you to have a bit more emotion behind this. So we'd break down the line sometimes very specifically after he got feedback from them, and then we'd try it. So all the time that happened, where we'd redirect and try and get it right, because we didn't necessarily have the benefit of, obviously Carol would have lots of hours and hours of meetings beforehand trying to understand what we're doing that day. But maybe when it came down to specific lines, he didn't necessarily understand the exact tone, because it wasn't discussed beforehand, or maybe the line got changed last minute, and then just in real time he would ask them, and then we kind of discuss, how do we get there then, if this is what we're doing, and then we'd shift to the next line, which may be a completely different scene. So but yeah, we did that all the time. It was very helpful. I mean, honestly, it was invaluable. There's no
Hmm.
way we could have done this without all the feedback in real time.
Oh, wow. Everyone's just so incredibly talented. I'm
Oh
like,
yeah,
I don't
this
know
this
how y'all do it.
they were this company was amazing. Like, just for BIPOC to kind of insist also on having at least a South Asian for this role, which
Hmm.
does not always happen.
Yeah.
Voice acting is a very tight knit community, and it's hard to break into it. And when you have talented people, they just get more and more talented as they get more and more work. So
Hmm.
it's harder to compete with that. And a
Hmm.
lot of them can do multiple accents, and so they're like, well, why don't we just get this one person to do all the voices? That
Hmm.
happens a lot.
Oh, wow.
As opposed to hiring different actors for different roles. But for this particular project, I found it was very important for them to get different people for different roles and try and get some authenticity in there. So I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, because I mean, it's like you can tell like every time I've spoken to a voice actor, like they can relate to their character so much. And it's like it's
Mhm.
not it's more about like finding like the right person for the character like more than
Yeah.
anything because
Yeah.
the way you relate to Charmaine is like there's other voice actors who also relate to their characters, like Winsong, Jay, like all those other characters, like their voice actors can like draw some experiences from their actual life, like an actual like daily
Yes.
thing from their life, and then add that to the character, and then it really just helps like embody it. And then that's why when I do these voice actor interviews, I'm like, you guys are the character because you guys have
Yeah.
such a deep understanding
Yeah.
as well as like just so much like knowledge and it's always just
Yeah.
so interesting.
It's so funny on Facebook. Sometimes people would comment, and because I posted something on there's a bunch of different Facebook groups for this game, even from different countries and stuff like that. And sometimes people would be like, "Oh, he kind of looks like Shemaine." It's like I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But if I reminded them of Shemaine, great. I think that's I don't think the voice actor necessarily looks like the character drawn at all, of course. But I because I put my actual picture up in there and said hi to everybody at one point, and they're like, "Oh, he looks like Shemaine." I'm like, well, I don't know if I do, but
You're like, thanks, guys.
yeah, thanks, yeah, great. Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome. You know what? I now I'm curious if other voice actors have that same experience where they're like, "Oh,
yeah,
you look just like the character." They're like,
yeah. I know. I mean,
"Yeah."
most of the time they don't, right? Like I've gone to a lot of panels watching voice actors I love, and they don't necessarily look like them at all, but it was just kind of funny that people said that about Shemaine.
All right. So let's get into our next question, which is, and these are more of the fun questions, but
Yeah.
if Charmaine could keep a pet or familiar, what kind of creature do you think he would choose?
Oh, I think it's a dog for Shemaine. Maybe it's a boring answer, but
For sure.
I think a puppy's playful, loyal to Shemaine. I think that's something he'd want. I think he would need some comfort sometimes, and he's so connected with nature that I think he would immediately connect with a dog. I think.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Now, wolves are kind of, a little bit symbolic for sure for this family and that sort of thing. So I think it's kind of the same family kind of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think something along those lines would be very fitting for Shemaine. I think the goofiness in him, but then also being like trying to train the dog. Oh, we
Yeah.
gotta be serious. We gotta be serious now, man.
Yeah.
You can't poop inside. We gotta go out here.
For
I
sure.
think they would just kind of banter back and forth quite a bit, and I think he would get lost in a dog's love for sure. And certainly dogs are very therapeutic for people, especially when they've gone through trauma and all these sorts of things. And they bring out the goofy side of you. I think he'd also just, like I said, just appreciate the loyalty of a dog. So that's what I'd say.
Oh yeah, no, that's absolutely perfect. That was exactly what I was thinking because I could
Okay.
imagine
Oh,
him going
good.
around
Oh,
like
perfect.
showing
I didn't know
everyone his
that was a boring
dog.
answer or not,
No,
but
no, no, it's the absolute perfect answer because I
yeah.
can imagine him going around being like showing people his dog. He's like, "Look at the new trick
Yeah.
I taught
And making stupid little noises and
him."
just like
That's oh my gosh, that is so adorable. Okay,
yeah.
artists out there, we need fan art of this, please.
Yes, yes. I agree. I agree.
All right. Our next question is, if you could give Charmaine one piece of advice from your own life experience, what would you tell him?
Huh. I kind of think, what would I tell myself? I guess being stubborn can be good and bad, I guess.
Hmm.
The wise can change their minds, as they say, whereas, stubborn people cannot. Sometimes, though, it's an asset to you, depending on what you're doing. If you're really focused on a goal and that's what it takes to get to the end of that goal, whatever it is, then yes, then maybe that's a trait to really kind of lean into. But I think Shemaine, and he got there eventually, is you also have to be open to, what, you might be wrong. You know, you might be wrong about this. Despite everything you think right now in this moment, that how wrong you think other people were for making this decision. There may be some information you don't know. There might be some perspective you don't have yet. And maybe just even growing up will give you that. Maybe life experience will give you that. Whatever it may be, some sort of epiphany, some sort of moment, which may finally give you that perspective, even if you don't have that perspective right now. Even if I gave him this advice, I think he still has to go through that to understand fully what that means. But maybe that'll give him a bit more. And he is an optimistic guy. I think Shamane is very optimistic. But even just to renew that optimism sometimes in hard moments is like, look, maybe you don't understand this right now. Maybe being stubborn right now is not the right answer. And just be more open-minded to certain things, because that's the only way you're going to be able to change your mind about something is if you're open to that possibility. That's probably what I tell him. And that, you know what, life is hard, no matter how you slice it. I think we all experience tragedy on some level, and choices we make, both sides are sometimes both hard, and you got to choose your hard, right? They say that all the time, right? In the end, you got to bring yourself and be able to get through these moments and still not lose your entire self, because even if you're getting told by your entire family, this is what you need to do in life, and that may be your path in the end, you still have to not forget who you are, because everyone's different. You may not fit in with your family as much as you hoped you would, and that's okay. I think Shamane just really has to be comfortable with the fact that who he is as a result of what he went through, and that's okay. And who he is a wonderful being in the end, who is a kind-hearted soul, who is a protector, and though all those things happened because of what he went through. So I think he has to understand his life experiences, created who he is today. I think that's what I'd probably tell him.
Wow. I really liked what you said about like kind of trying to see the other perspective and like taking like the devil's advocate sort of route and like trying to see like
Yeah.
why people would either say the things they do or try and make you do the things that they want you to do. And I feel like that's a thing that could really be applied to like a lot of the things happening right now. And like a lot of people should just like being stubborn, I feel like is good in some situations, but obviously
Yeah,
you need to be
sure.
able to be flexible and be able to
Yes,
see other people's opinions and sort of
absolutely.
change your judgment based on it.
Yeah.
So I think that what you said is really important, and it doesn't only
Uh-huh.
apply to Charmaine, okay? It applies to
No, yeah,
everyone.
exactly. That's kind of what I tell myself sometimes. And being stubborn is different than being disciplined, right?
Hmm.
Or being committed. I think those are different things. And you can be disciplined and committed to something, but still be open-minded.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I'm glad you
Yeah.
saw something from my ramblings.
Yeah. No, it made so much sense
Yeah.
because
Okay.
like
Good.
that's actually like so real
Yeah.
because like I
Yeah.
think like a lot of people need to hear that and
Yeah.
like sometimes like I hope that people listening to it are like, "Oh, wait, actually maybe sometimes I do need to kind of change the way I approach things and the way I think about certain
Yeah.
things and try and have a better understanding." So yeah.
Well, that's why when you asked me to do this interview, it was so nice to revisit this character, because it did bring back some of those principles that I kind of told myself about him. And I'm like, that applies to me too. I mean, it applies to many people, like you said. So yeah, it's just one of those, I'm like, oh, I wish Shemaine would just understand this now, but he's not there yet.
Mhm. Yeah. He's on his little journey still,
Yeah, yes.
Journey never
Like
ends.
everybody else, you have to
Right.
experience it yourself, and then you're like, oh, okay, I get it now. It's so funny when you're telling somebody, because you want people to learn from your own mistakes.
Hmm.
But sometimes they learn that by going through the mistake.
Oh,
So
true. Sometimes you just gotta learn it the hard
it is
way.
kind of some things are just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's all right because like I
Yeah, it's
mean,
okay. That's how
yeah,
you grow. That's how you grow
exactly.
as a person, and mistakes is a huge part of life, right? That's how
Right.
you succeed in the end. Isn't Michael Jordan the one who kept talking about how many shots he's missed, and how many
Yeah.
even championships he was given the potential winning shot, and he's missed it. But
Hmm.
that he's thrown thousands of misses to get all the thousands of actual baskets he made to become who he is. I mean, failure is just a part of success. It just goes along with it. So
Wow. See, like some of these are perfect quotes for some t-shirts. Because I'm like, I need to
I
live by
talk
some of
I talk too
these.
much. It would be too much on
Just like a whole, just like
too many words.
paragraph
Yeah.
on the front and then on the back, and then maybe some down the
You need
sleeves.
someone smarter than me just to pare it down to an actual quote. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So our next question is, and these are more voice acting related questions, but what inspired you to pursue voice acting in the first place?
Huh. Interesting. So I mean, what inspired me to go into acting in the first place was my
Mm-hmm.
desire to tell stories and, use the artistic side of my, my other job is very scientific based, and I wanted to use. I've always been interested in performance since I was a kid. Ever since high school. I've always loved it. I always produced and edited and directed, little parody videos and stuff on my own for many years. And then I just felt like I wanted to take it to another level and do this on a professional basis. So that's when I started training, mostly to become an actor in front of a camera. I went to all the well-known schools in Toronto to do that. But then people kept telling me, "Hey, you should think about voice acting. My voice does project. It does have a unique kind of sound to it, and it is an art. Being able to tell a story through your voice without being able to see the person." It also elevated my acting when I practiced voice acting because you're doing it without all these other elements helping you,
Mm-hmm.
which you may have in front of you as an actor, especially on a set or something like that. I don't know. People just kept mentioning it. I signed up with Noble Kaplan Abrams back almost 2020 now, and I met with there's different agents I have for film, television, commercial, and then I
Mm-hmm.
met with my voice agent James over there, and I said to him, I said, "What do you think? Do you think I have a chance at some of this?" And I actually, interestingly, taped a demo years back just because I wanted to try it out, and I signed up for some weekend warrior course or something where where they trained you and they gave you a demo at the end, and I'm like, look, this is kind of like old and stuff, and but what do you think? And it at least showed some of my range, and my what does my voice sound in a commercial type of setting? What does it sound like in a drama type setting or a comedy? And he listened to it and he's like, yeah, you know what, Indy, I think I would like to sign you on to audition you for voice stuff. So it was kind of a combined thing where I was motivated to get into acting because of my love for art and how art can really, you can change someone's mind in a couple of hours watching a
Mm-hmm.
movie or listening to something, which is so hard to do nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and really highlighting things in the world that maybe people don't know exist, like a lot of political injustice that you may not know about. I've learned about many things, just from watching. I'm like, oh, I did not know this is happening in the world by watching a movie on it, or
Mm-hmm.
seeing something in the artistic world that exposed some sort of injustice, and that was also very motivating for me. Just with my work with Amnesty International in the in the background, and this, it was just it was so. I'm like, I want to tell stories that haven't been told before, and from my
Mm-hmm.
perspective, and from my lived experience, that haven't maybe seen the screen as much, and seeing people that look like me on camera, um, but then also learning about the voice world and that there aren't many South Asian actors in this world necessarily,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, creating that space for people like me. I'm a Sikh. That's my religious background, and having South Asians represented in this industry is hard enough to begin with. So
Mm-hmm.
why not try and break into voice and have more Sikhs kind of in this industry? Because I don't think there are many. And then having a role like this come up, it's like, wow, yeah. So you actually have a South Asian as opposed to someone else doing, who may not be from my background, just doing the voice.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an important change to see. And again, we just don't see that very much. This is a very long answer to say that I was motivated to go into acting for certain reasons. That kind of exposed me to voice acting,
Mm.
and with encouragement from others and from support from my agency, I think that's how I kind of got into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then basically from there it was just a matter of my agent just trying to advocate for me and saying, "Hey, I got a guy here. He's South Asian. He's a Sikh. He's has some demos you can listen to. What do you think? At least we have that start. Obviously, I'm very early on in my, in kind of this industry, but you can do this lifelong. This is for people who want to get into this, get into acting or get into voice. You can do this forever. It's a little different than, I'd say, like, even modeling has changed a lot over the years too, to be honest. And you have people from all kinds of different backgrounds and ages, which is so fantastic to see, but it wasn't always like that. And for acting, we need people who look like every part of the world. We want to see you on screen. Whose voice isn't, if you have the right character for yourself, and you find that right match, it'd be great to listen to your voice. And you can do that forever. You can do that, for years, and you'll only get better at it as you go along. So yeah, I think it was a number of different kind of things that happened to me that kind of led me down this path, and just the right people at the right time, I think, that said, hey, Indy, you should do this.
Yeah. And like what you said, like about how everyone should be able to get a chance to tell their story, which I just think even like what you said, like watching movies, like if a picture says 1,000 words,
Yeah,
how many words does a movie have, you know? And it's
yeah,
like being able to experience someone else's own perspective. Like even the actors add their own like little touches to everything. And it's just being able to experience something you've never been able to experience before.
yeah,
And it's also like getting to feel, you can even feel some emotions that you've never probably felt before. Like when you
totally.
watch something really sad, you're like, oh, I've just never felt this kind of like sadness before. And it's
Yeah.
really just being able to enjoy the art and then also being able to participate in it, which is essentially what I got from what you said as well.
Absolutely. And I maybe I'm more sensitive than other people, but like I'll watch a movie and that'll change my life sometimes. Like,
Hmm.
the movie Blood Diamond, there's some issues with that movie, of course, but it motivated me to travel to Africa and volunteer there in a clinic, and just watching inspiring movies about the space industry. I'm like, hey, I ended up working at NASA for a couple of months, doing some research projects with them. I mean, these things can inspire you. Hearing an interesting story can make you want to learn more about that area of the world. Maybe people who heard Shamane and his story, maybe they want to learn more about, some of the background where he came from in the real world, like how does that fit in? I think it exposes people also to, a new language, in Shemane's case. It's interesting to hear this language and hear it translated. That's what it sounds like. And bringing his cultural perspective to things. I think it's great for people to be exposed to these things. It brings us all closer together too. So yeah, I just really believe in the arts, and how we need to turn to the arts sometimes in dark times. We need them. So yeah, it's just, I love it. I think I'll always do it.
Yeah, and like even like playing the game, like even just playing it, you get to experience another culture, like another
Yeah,
part of the
yeah,
world that probably a lot of people didn't have the chance to even like know about because
totally.
again,
And hearing from people and
presentation.
from my culture was very heartwarming.
Hmm.
People are like, oh wow, they're using this theme. It's so great to see this. Like, the number of people from the Indian community that sent me messages, just so excited to see this actually happen, and the fact that they wanted to get behind this
Hmm.
was amazing.
Yeah, and it's just like now people all over the world that's played the game now
Yeah,
has been able to have this experience and like hear the language, learn
yeah,
little tidbit and facts that they would like say and all that stuff. And then there's also people, like you said, who probably related to Charmaine's character and
yeah.
who
They
were
totally
like,
did.
yeah, and who saw themselves in him and who were like, oh yeah, I've also had to deal with the same kind of family or
Yeah.
like had like some sort of a similar experience and were able to relate. And then Charmaine is like just the ultimate like representation, just like when it comes to culture, like his experiences, like even the fact that he wears a what's the word? He wears like he's missing his arm, but like
Oh, the
even though
prosthetic arm?
yeah,
Yeah.
prosthetic
And then
arm.
he wears, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like all
I
of
know.
that
And then
stuff.
he wears some kind of traditional kind of, shaman kind of clothing and that
Mm-hmm.
sort of thing, which, the mask is very specific as
Mm-hmm.
well. Um, but which kind of represents some of his culture specifically. I would like to see him in more even traditional garments, perhaps in future iterations if he ever comes back, which would be also nice to see some more outfits for Shemaine. And yes, for you fans, some shirtless ones, 100%. It's not me. It's not me. It's they're drawing this character. So whatever you guys want is great. But yeah, to see some of that traditional clothing would be so cool because I think it's also educational. It's interesting. So yeah, it's just a lot of fun to see this, and so successful. And just hearing from people all over the world saying they just appreciated seeing it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that is so amazing. I always love the discussion of like art and how
Yeah,
it kind of like impacts and makes people feel because it could change
yeah.
people's lives. Like you never
Oh, it
know,
does.
you
It
know?
does.
So, yeah. All right. For our next question is, what was one of the biggest challenges you faced early in your voice acting journey?
Yeah, I guess it's something I kind of allude to is breaking into the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a general challenge for every actor, no matter what your background is. We do talk about certainly diversity, and how we are trying to create more opportunities for people from, the BIPOC community, or other marginalized communities. So it's just one of those things where it's just an extra layer of challenge. It's not easy to make it in the industry for anybody, even established people. It's hard to make it and continue finding work. So it's just, I think it's a challenge for everybody that I was also facing is finding my space within it. This was a wonderful opportunity, but it's also very hard finding future opportunities, and you audition a lot. This industry is mostly no, you have to have thick skin to be in this industry because most of the time it's going to be a no, because it's so much competition and it is somewhat subjective when you are getting selected for roles. And maybe it's for some people, like, what, I know this a voice actor, I'm going to continue using this person. So it's hard to get to get that experience at the same time and get the confidence of casting directors and producers, because in the end it might be 30 people deciding who they want
Mm-hmm.
to ultimately play that character, and that's a lot of people to convince.
Yeah, a lot of people. 30?
So yeah, it's a lot of people, and it may and I hear this all the time that it's not necessarily the best actor who gets the role, or even necessarily your experience, or it may be because of how much experience one person had over another, and they give it to that person. So it's just challenging overall to kind of overcome those odds. And yeah, I would say the biggest challenge for me is trying to break in and get people to trust you and give you more opportunities to do these things. But that's, again, it's a long game. I understood that from the very beginning, that there's no shortcut. People always talk about when they finally made it, it's never an overnight success. It's 10 years of work, and then, all of a sudden overnight they're big. And
Yeah.
there are a few, certainly cases where people have been discovered or made it very quickly. And kudos to them for doing that. But that's not necessarily the common story. The
Mm-hmm.
common story is putting in the work, just like anything else in life that's worth doing. You got to put in the work. You got to put in the hours. You got to, this industry specifically, you do have to network.
Mm-hmm.
So it is helpful to create demo reels so you can send that out to people. It is expensive to make reels, but if you can set up even your home studio you don't have to spend a lot of money necessarily on it, but practice doing your voices,
Mm-hmm.
um, and try and come up with things that you can send up, because people do have to hear what you sound like,
Yeah.
and people do have to see your range. So I think you just have to put in the work and make sure you're doing all the things that'll help you. And getting an agent is not necessarily easy to get either, and you have to prove yourself to get an agent.
Mm-hmm.
But your agent can help you. But in the end, your career is your career.
Yeah.
You have to be able to market yourself. You have to be able to try and create opportunities by networking, going to conferences, going to events, trying to reach out to people on social media, showing people what you can do. I think that's ultimately up to you.
Yeah.
But that is one of the hardest parts, is trying to find these opportunities and getting people to know you and trust you.
Especially with like these creative fields are so hard to like just yeah, to get like opportunity all the opportunities you want. Like it's
Yeah,
hard, but
it's
it
tough.
really just shows like people's passion because they just keep putting in the work and then
Yep.
it pays off, you know? Like
If you stick with it,
mhm.
you will eventually get something. You will eventually get some work. Maybe you'll end up getting inspired to create your own. Things will happen if you're doing things. You
Exactly.
can't just sit there waiting for the phone to ring. You can't sit there doing nothing.
Hmm.
You if you do things and you put yourself out there, something will happen in return. It
Hmm.
may not happen right away, but if you keep doing these things and keep practicing and you keep training, what else is there? Like you have to keep trying something, right? So,
Exactly. And
yeah.
I hope this is a message to all of you guys out there that with whatever you want to do, you just got to keep on keeping on the best way you know how. And eventually, something will happen,
Yes, absolutely.
because the best ones will be the ones left, because they
Yeah.
worked the hardest.
And the
So,
ones who stuck it out. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
All right. So, next question is there a common misconception about acting slash voice acting you wish more people understood?
Yeah. So I guess I alluded to this earlier when I talked about voice acting. Like it is acting. It's
Hmm.
not just your voice. I
Yeah.
think people think it's just your voice, but you actually are physically acting out things, making the facial expressions, creating a story to get where you need to get. It's not
Hmm.
just about having a good voice, it is acting.
Yeah.
And I think the two complement each other very, very well. In fact, I think being a voice actor has helped me with my acting as well, because I'm just even creating more of an imagination and you're doing the same kinds of things in the end. Like you're trying to get into a character, you're trying to understand where that character came from, and you're trying to land that perfect way of saying something. That's acting. I mean, and people have this misconception it's just having a good voice and just being able to say those lines. It is definitely more than that. You are an actor as a voice actor. I think there's definitely unique challenges in the booth that are different,
Hmm.
but not necessarily any less or any more. It's that you're still trying to tell a story, and that can be so difficult sometimes. Um, but you are in the end physically acting in the booth um, to be able to say the line the way you need to say it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's like a big one because, again, like I know a lot of people just grow up watching television and they just think like someone's there just like, oh, yeah, doing the lines. And then they
Yeah.
don't realize that it's like, it's not just like a voice thing, it's like a physical thing. And like sometimes you do have to just like act out the whole thing. Like that's why it's like, I've heard a lot of people being like, it's important to have like taking acting classes, like improv
Yes.
classes, like,
100%.
yeah, like
And there are specific voice acting coaches that you can look up, and they will typically have workshops that you can go to if you can, have the money to do that. You're lucky to be able to do those things. Sometimes you can um, basically audit a course sometimes and just sit in if you can't necessarily sign up for a course and just listen to what people are doing and how they're improving their skills. There's definitely online stuff you can look up in terms of how to improve your demo reel or how to practice or how to break into the industry. There's lots of things you can do that don't necessarily cost a lot of money.
hmm.
Um, and then I think that there's also things you can look up. But what are the basic equipment you need to have some sort of studio at home? And it doesn't necessarily cost a lot of money. But even if you can't afford a good microphone, you can do it on your phone. Like you can.
Hmm.
There are apps that don't necessarily cost a lot of money to download onto your phone. Just make sure you're doing at least some of the basic things, like where you may have people sometimes do have a blanket over them just to block out noise, or go into a closet with lots of clothes so it dampens the noise. You just want to really block out other noise when you're taping so you sound professional and they can hear you clearly. I think are the biggest things to make sure you keep doing if you can't afford the equipment right away. But there's lots of tips online to do these things
Yeah.
and
Literally.
from professionals other than me. Like I'm not necessarily, there are other people out there who have way more experience than me and have lots of great tips online too that you can look up and say, hey, how do I set up a voice acting studio for under $100 or something. Like, you can look up these things, right? Like, what's the best app in 2025 or 2026 to record my voice on my iPhone or my Android? You know, who are the best coaches in my area for voice? Can I audit, you know, a course locally, and listen in on somebody, or, you know, what's a upcoming conference I can go to where I can network with people in the industry? You know, there's definitely people, you know, depending where you live, there's always opportunities like that to try and explore, before you end up setting up your own booth. A lot of times you can just, even if you audition on your phone, you can say, when it comes to actually taping the actual lines, you can do that in a booth at their studio. Most companies will have their own studio you can record at, so you don't necessarily have to worry about having a perfect booth or a perfect setup to do these things. You know, most time if you get the role, they will provide all that for you.
Yeah. Yeah, that, and like again, the internet's vast. Anything you want to find, you can find it on the internet.
Oh yeah, so helpful.
All right. And for our last question, looking back, what's been one of the most rewarding or meaningful moments in your voice acting career so far?
Honestly, I'd say it's this one.
Really?
Yes. For voice acting, you know, specifically, I'd say Shamane was a pivotal moment for me to get this one. Because not that it was the last one to get, but it was one of the first big South Asian roles I could really dive into, that I found I connected with. You know, seeing the sketches of Shamane and what he looked like, was so important to me early on, because they started showing me the character, you know, when they, in the early drawings, that didn't end up being necessarily being the final drawing, but the early drawings were so important for me to see that, just to see what he looked like, and being able to dive into a role like this that doesn't come along very often on a video game. Like, that was so interesting to get. And you know, even when I read the initial audition, I'm like, I really hope I get this. You know, because then I started diving into who he was. I'm like, this is so interesting to me, and this is why this ended up being one of the most pivotal roles to get. Just reading about, you know, even just the family symbols, you know, the white elephant and the Bodhi tree, and reading about his heritage and the whole Sharma family and where they came from, and learning about what is an arcanist, you know, what are these kind of characters, you know, there's such, you know, drawing on magic in different games is how they're portrayed. Like, oh, I wonder how much of that we'll dive into for this character. It was just such a cool, and just seeing the just getting into the RPG world. Like, you know, I wasn't necessarily as familiar with it beforehand, and then seeing how big that world was, because I started exploring it a little bit, and seeing like, wow, there's a humongous fan base here, you know, for these types of games, you know, turn-based, you know, kind of role-playing games. I'm like, this is kind of cool, with the opportunities to, like, you know, purchase things within the games, uncovering Shamane, you know, like you said, was something I didn't even know really existed in this sort of format. So it was just very fun to learn about it initially and be like, wow, this is interesting. This is a South Asian character. I can do this. Because you say that to yourself so many times, you don't always get the role. And then getting the role and then diving into it and then learning about the company and learning about the fact that there's already a following behind Reverse 1999. Like, even before the game came out, I'm like, whoa, this is going to be big, you know? And after seeing the law, and then we're like, oh, Indy, we're going to do a trailer now. I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. And, you know, and then, you know, and then seeing it come out. And then, like I said, all the TikToks and all the people sending me art, and there's very few opportunities like that where there is like a fan base. Like, I found the fan base was really, you know, on top of it being a South Asian role that's rare, it was really seeing the fan base around it that made this, I suppose, being a very rewarding role for me. Because like I mentioned, I did the Reddit thing where fans came on and kind of typed questions. on Facebook. You know, there's a lot of Facebook groups where I interact with fans here and there saying, "Hey guys, I just wanted to say hi." And everyone's like, "Whoa, Shamane's here." And they're like, this, you know, seeing that excitement, the combination of seeing people really appreciating it and wanting to learn more about my character, I think the combination of those two things made this actually the most rewarding to date, I have to say, because the fans were so kind and enthusiastic and really wanted to interact and ask questions. And they're just drawing art and being so creative. And honestly, that was so heartwarming to see. I'm like, this is like, you know, like people have pages dedicated to Shamane out there. And I'm like, that was like, whoa, you guys are so cool, you know? I was talking to, you know, some of the creators behind the game, and I was saying, it'd be cool to have all of the voice actors from this game do a panel at like,
That'd
you
be
know,
so
Comic-Con
cool.
or even, you know, a fan expo of some sort, because you don't see that. You see that sometimes. I've gone to some voice acting panels, but they're for some of the biggest games like GTA and stuff like that, where you see these voice actors come out. But this game also has a huge following, so I'd love to see, even if it, you know, it's in a specific country that has a big following. Like I think it would be cool to see fans have the opportunity to meet voice actors and kind of promote that part of the industry a little bit more, especially when it comes to these specific types of games where it's just on your phone or on a PC, you know, not necessarily on an Xbox or a PlayStation. I think it'd be cool to interact with fans like that too in the future. But yeah, to answer your question, I think looking back, this is probably the most meaningful one, mostly because it was a role that I thought fit me, my personality, a role that I could dive into as from who I am as a person and my background, but also just how big this fan base is and how kind they've been towards me and other voice actors in the game. I think that's just one of those things that made it the most meaningful.
I like how you mentioned the fan pages, because the thing about I love is fandom culture is fan pages are so cool because they're
Yeah.
always uploading like either art or nice messages. And one specific fan page that actually, when I asked the question, they were so excited. They DM'd me. Their name is Samdura on Twitter. Shout out to you.
Hi, Sandra. Yeah.
Yeah, they were so excited just hearing, like, they're like, you got him, you got him. I was like, yeah, I'll keep you,
Oh, that's
I'll let you
awesome.
know.
See, this
And
is what I mean. This is
yeah,
exactly what I mean, right?
yeah,
And just hearing from you, you know, just to say, hey, we'd love to, you know, you just wanted to talk to me about the character. I'm like, see, this is what like, it's still rewarding me to this day. So, you know, thank you. This is great to revisit this and hear from fans like that.
yeah. And thank you, because the Shamane fandom is still alive and kicking, and there's
Awesome.
so many of us.
Love
And we
it.
would love to see more Shamane. So reverse 1999,
Yes.
if you're watching this, give us more. More skins, more patches. I'll take, you know, sometimes when they do art, like I think there was one specific one where they were cleaning the suitcase. And then
Okay, yeah.
Charmaine was in that one. I don't think he was cleaning. I think he was like brushing his hair or something.
Brushing
But
his
it's
hair,
like,
yeah.
but I'm like, him still like being there and like seeing like just like a visual interaction with all the other people in the suitcase is just so cool.
Oh,
So I would
yeah.
love more stuff like that, and then also some more like anything. So
Yes, yes.
it's just so
You fans,
awesome.
you guys are all wonderful. Like, just keep doing your thing. It's such talent out there and such enthusiasm. We all love it. I mean, all of us on the game. You know, I know other people have been interviewed and doing stuff online as well, talking about their characters. It's just so great. I mean, everyone has been so great on this game. So thank you all so much, and thank you for this lovely interview. I mean, this was so much fun. You're so
Yeah,
good at what you
thank
do,
you.
I gotta say.
Really?
Oh yeah, this was so easy. I mean, like, I'm sorry I talk so much. I am so sorry. You just let me just do it, but it's like I just too tend to go on. But I appreciate you so much.
No, I appreciate you, and just like hearing all the like all that stuff just makes me have a bigger appreciation for voice actors, you guys who work behind the scenes on the game and the game
Yes.
itself. It's just always so fun to just talk about it and see like how some of our favorite characters, one of my favorite characters, were able to get their
Yeah.
voice and how the process was like. So thank you for joining
No
me in this
problem.
interview. And yeah, thank you guys for always watching these, and thank you guys for always being a fan of the game and the voice actors. And yeah, thank you guys out
Yes.
there.
Like and subscribe, right?
Yes, like, comment, and subscribe, and everyone say thank you to Indy for for
Thank
doing
you
this
all. Thank you
interview.
so much. Thank you.
All right, and I'll see you
We'll see you
guys.
next time, hopefully in a
Yeah,
future game.
yes, for sure, for sure. We'll see
Yes.
you guys next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.